What is going on, Sooner Nation, Surgeaholics? Welcome back to the Sooner Surge podcast that tells it like it is. And before we get started with this video, hit the subscribe button, turn on your notification bell so you know every time we go live or we release a video. Also, check out the Fan Stop, www.thefanstop.com. Use code SURGE to get 10% off your first 3 months. Here today for a basketball video, men's and women's edition, as both teams coming off disappointing losses this week. OU men lose 2 games, and then the women had the big win against Tennessee, but then fall short against Mississippi State. So let's start with the women, Jackson. Very disappointing loss the other night, and it's one word you could say to describe it was turnovers. That's been an Achilles heel, Jackson. We've done videos, we've talked about during post games, even when they were beating people by 20 or 30 points, we were like, you can't have these turnovers. It's going to come back to bite you. And just a massive amount of turnovers in that game just really ended it for them in that game.
Well, yeah, to be exact, they finished the game with 21 turnovers, Jason, and that's just a recipe for failure. They had, I think it was 30 in a road win against Tennessee. I don't know how you win a basketball game with 30 points because if they turn it over 10 times, they probably win that game by 20, 30 points. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the reality of it. And then it's why they lost the first game at home against Texas as well, was they turned the ball over. And you can't do that because this is a team that has so much talent. They have the ability for multiple players to go off any night, whether that's a Peyton Verhulst or a Sahara Williams, even a Skylar Van, a Reagan Beers. And it's just like for Oklahoma, in my opinion, their best player, the most consistent player throughout conference play has been probably, I would say, Beers or Scott. I mean, like really outside of that, like no one else has been consistent. You don't know what you're going to get from them. Peyton Verhulst, she got off to a slow start. I don't know. I think at one point she was like 1 for 9, 1 for 10 from the field at one point in the game. That's just not ideal because whenever you need someone to score a bucket, she's the player that Oklahoma needs to turn to. And if she's having a slow start, Skylar Van, she hasn't done, I would say, as much early in the season as we kind of expected from her, especially compared to last year. And also, it seems like this team, for some reason, is still trying to figure out how to play together when they're 14, 15 games into the season. That's not what you want to have happening right now. So they need to get things fixed quick. It's really, if they can stop turning the ball over, that's a big if, which at this point in the season, I don't know if it's going to get fixed because it's been an issue they've had all year long.
That's the issue when you look at something like this is you would think it'd get better, but it's staying the same or worse. And that's the issue. And really, in my opinion, Jackson, that's the Achilles heel. That's everything with this team. I think you look at it last Sunday, they beat Tennessee on the road. Massive win. Tennessee was just in a barn burner with LSU yesterday and barely lost. And so Tennessee's a really good team. They win that game. If they can clean up the turnovers, this team can make a good run. If they can't, they could lose quickly in the tournament. They just could, I think, because it could bite you, and that's what's happened. So got to get it cleaned up. I mean, you got 2 home games now. You got Texas A&M and Missouri before you go to South Carolina, and
Yeah.
you got to get it cleaned up before then. Hopefully, you come back home, you get some things fixed. I think Jenny does a great job coaching. I think she'll get some of this stuff cleaned up. I think, hopefully, but it remains to be seen. But you got to win these next 2 at home,
Yeah.
and then go see what happens there in South Carolina.
Yeah. And also, I think something that's just kind of the issue that Oklahoma has right now too at the one spot is with Nevaeh Tot, you're starting to see her play less. It's not because she's a bad player, but she just doesn't have the size to compete with a lot of these SEC guards. Like whenever you face LSU, you're gonna have to face maybe the best guard in the country in Flau'jae Johnson, and I don't think you want to have Nevaeh Tot being out there on her. So do we see maybe a starting lineup change, whether that's Isaiah Van or Arena Scott start at that one? I think that's something Jenny might have to consider going forward. But I think that Jason, if they can stop turning over the ball, there's no reason that Oklahoma at the end of the year can't be atop the SEC with like the LSU, the Tennessee, the South Carolinas. They have the talent to do it. They have the players to do it. They have the depth to it. They need to stop getting in their own way.
Well, and I think they're right now. I mean, we'll see what happens the rest of the year, but I think you got South Carolina and LSU at the top, and then you
Yeah.
have another tier, and the hope would be to be in that next tier. Let's move to men's basketball. Men, just golly, they've just been destroying people and doing great in the non-conference every year under Porter Moser, and then they get into conference play and begin to lose games. And right now they're 0-2, coming off a loss to A&M, where you can't lose up 18 points in the second half. You can't lose that game, period. You got to find a way to win. They didn't. They lost. And now you go on the road to Georgia, who just beat Kentucky there in Georgia. You got to somehow maybe find a way to steal one now on the road because you lost a home game. And, looking at it, once again, this is a team that hasn't really had a ton of problems with turnovers, but they had some big turnovers down the stretch there. You had Kobe Elvis with 0 points. Here's the deal, in my opinion. You have that 3-guard lineup that's been great all year, but now you're getting into SEC play, and both these teams that they played were really good rebounding teams, and it showed. It showed big time. And I don't know what to do there if you're Porter. You cannot
Mhm.
I tell you what you can't do. You can't play an NBA lottery pick. Jeremiah Fears only 21 minutes.
No.
He played 21 minutes. He's got to
Yeah.
play more than that. Duke Miles played 20 minutes. That can't – you're not going to win many games that way, I don't think. But what's the answer? Because I do think you have some issues with bigs against some of these matchups. But I don't know. I think Porter Moser's, they got to get it figured out in conference play. That's been his Achilles heel, and they've started at 0-2. Let's get this thing turned around, and let's start it with Georgia tomorrow night.
Well, I think Oklahoma, something that could help them is they have two guys that are hurt right now that potentially could come back soon, and Jadon Jones and Jeff Walkwell. I think especially with Jadon Jones, he's a 6'5", 6'6" wing, and he's someone that's played a lot of basketball, can help on the glass. But Jason, you said it. They've been getting dominated on the boards. It's something that's been hurting them.
Yeah.
We said it in the Big 12 too. If you do not have athletic bigs, it is going to hurt you. Okay, they have Mo off the bench, but really, like, he doesn't play a ton. He's not a scorer. Sam Godwin, he's not athletic. He's not a scorer. Luke Northweather, all he wants to do is shoot threes. He's not a scorer. So it's like, if you're the coach is like, who do you turn to next? You have no one, and that's an issue. And Jeremiah Fears playing 21 minutes, Jason. That's almost a fireable offense. I'm sorry. But when you have someone that talented that's a potential top 5, top 10 pick, you play him 30 plus minutes tonight. It does not matter who you're playing in the SEC. He needs to be on the court the majority of the game. Going into conference play, I'm pretty sure he had the highest was it rate of being used amongst
Oh, an
all 12
insane
all
rate. An insane
yeah,
rate.
it was like 30 something percent. Like
Yeah.
that's an insane amount. So clearly is and I've said this, Jason, you said this team goes as Fears goes. And if Jeremiah Fears is not playing the majority of the game, not getting the opportunity to learn from his experiences, then
Well,
I
and
mean that's a coaching issue.
you got to live. I think he had 4 turnovers the other night. You're going to have to. He's a freshman. He's going to
Mhm.
turn the ball over. You can't just. So you're going to have to live with that. And here's the thing: Kobe Elvis, Jeremiah Fears, uh, Duke Miles, and Jalen Moore. They got to be scoring because that's where your points are going to come from. Now, I will say this: Bryson Goodine. Wow, that was an unbelievable performance. We cannot not talk about that. He was
No.
unbelievable. Just on fire. I think he has some liabilities defensively, but man, when he's shooting like that, you almost need him on the floor. But when you look at the last 2 games, here's my most disappointing thing as an OU fan is Porter Moser's team are usually good defensive teams. You look at Alabama put up 107. A&M at halftime had 30. They ended up with 80. 50 points in the second half, a 50 spot. That's and a 50 spot when you're up 18 points. You cannot allow that. You were up 18 points second half. You cannot allow a 50 spot. They had the Phelps kid went off, just had a great game. Second half specifically hitting threes, a career, I think, or this year, 24% 3-point shooter, just was on fire. But you got to find a way to close that out. You get the lead late, 78-77, I think, and Fears had the one-on-one, missed the one-on-one. So
Mhm.
there's different things. You just got to win that game, and you got to get a stop. If Fears misses the one-on-one, you got to go down there and get a stop. The guy does a step-back 3 in your face, and you lose.
Yeah.
It's disappointing, but you got to. Here's the thing you cannot have happen. You cannot get on a losing streak, a big losing streak in SEC. You will never
Mm.
recover from it. You got to stop it now. You have Georgia on the road. That'll be a tough game. Okay. But then you come home and you get Texas and South Carolina. You have to win both games. Period. End of story. Texas and South Carolina have to be wins before you travel to Arkansas. Arkansas has been up and down. OU's owned Arkansas over the last few years. So we'll see. But things got to be fixed now.
Yep. Jay, I don't know if you're going to agree with the statement or not that I'm about to say, but I think this game upcoming against Georgia on the road, that might be the game that decides whether or not Oklahoma is going to make March Madness or not. I'm sorry. If you start off 0-3 in conference play, you cannot tell me the morale in the locker room is going to be higher. The players are going to be confident. Everyone is going to be wanting to play as a team. I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but if they lose at Georgia, I think things could go downhill extremely, extremely bad, like we don't want to see, which I hope that doesn't happen. But it's like, Jason, like you said, you have the chance over these next 3, 4 games to win 2 or 3 of them. Get yourself back on track.
What they have to do.
Find what was working in the non-conference play. The guards, they need to be able to score, okay? Jalen Moore, he's been a consistent player all year long. I don't think we can argue that. I think he's been pretty consistent. You know what you're going to get from him night in, night out. Jeremiah Fears, he needs to start much better in the first half. Kobe Elvis can't go scoreless. Duke Miles needs to be able to create his own shot more. So it's like those 4 guys are going to be what determines whether or not Oklahoma is going to be able to go on a run these next few games or not. And it's sad that you wasted a 34-point performance from a guy who is not going to have games like that ever. And whenever you get that kind of performance from someone that's probably not going to do that again all season long, Jason, you need to win those games. I'm sorry, but if a guy off your bench who plays like 10 to 15 minutes is going to score 34 points, I don't see a world in which how you're going to lose that game. But Oklahoma has somehow found a way to.
Well, and you have to win your home games, period. It's tough to win on the road in the SEC, so you better defend home court because winning on the road is difficult. Kentucky, who's playing really well, just went into Georgia and got beat last week. So it's not going to be an easy game. Hopefully, OU has one of the better performances and can get a win. I think it could be a turning point if you can get a win, but at the same time, every night in the SEC you could lose. Every night you could lose. There's a lot of games you can win every night. You can literally lose every night. So you got to bring your best stuff. You got to get better. They can do it. I have faith that they can do it. Now, the thing is, they haven't really done it under Porter Moser, so will they? We'll find out soon. So appreciate everybody watching this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, like the video, and let's hope the Sooner men and women's basketball team have great weekends. They need it. Fans, we need it. Let's support them, and let's have a good day. Appreciate it.